In today's episode, let's learn the famous grid method of drawing. Hello everyone and welcome to Make with Ajay. And in today's episodes of Learn to Sketch, I'll be showing you how to copy an image as accurately as possible. As you can see in this portrait as well, that I've used the grid lines to copy the portrait as close to the image as possible. And because of these grid lines, the proportions of my image were absolutely accurate, which is the foundation of any good sketch. So without further ado, let's get started. So today I'll be using these two different printouts of images of a rose to show you two different methods of copying an image. So let's just take this first image, and the first method that I'm going to show you is the simplest of all. For this method, you just need a graphite pencil and you start rubbing the graphite on the back side of the image. So you just flip your paper, and wherever you think the image is, just start rubbing your graphite generously all over the image. The important thing is that you need to cover the entire image with the graphite. Once the entire backside of the image is covered in graphite, you flip the image back to its original position, and then you take a pointed device like a pencil or a ballpoint pen and start drawing on the outline of the image. You need to put a little bit of pressure while drawing the image, but not too much, so that the graphite may stick to the paper underneath and your image will appear. Just be careful that you are drawing exactly on the outline of the image. This method is exactly like using a carbon paper, but if you don't have a carbon paper, you can use this method and rub the graphite at the back of your image and can easily copy it. Some people would argue that copying is actually cheating, but my views are different. I would say that this practice would actually help you, especially as a beginner, to excel in your drawing skills and become better, because you're actually practicing to draw that image. Eventually you'll notice that you're getting more and more comfortable in drawing and in your hand movements as you practice with this method. And now let's talk about the famous grid method of copying an image. Most of the artists use this method as this provides the most accurate results. I'll be using this image or the printout of this rose and will demonstrate this grid method to you. You only need a scale and a pencil for this method. So the first step in the grid method would be to take the measurement of your image. So I'm just using the scale to measure the length and the breadth of the image. And I'm marking a dot at every 1 centimeter of interval to form a grid all over the length of this image. I'll do the same thing and mark the dots at 1 centimeter of interval on the other side of the length of the image. I've chosen 1 centimeter to be the size of my grid because I think that for this image size, 1 centimeter grid should be good enough. You can choose the size of your grid depending on the size of your image, or as per whatever you're comfortable with. And now I'm just joining these dots in front of each other to form these grid lines all over the length of the image. And now I'll use the same method and will draw the grid lines all over the width of the image. with this, our grid is ready on the image. Now I'm just counting all the grid boxes to know how many of those grid boxes do I need to create on my actual sheet or on my canvas. It's very important to count the boxes of the image because they need to be exactly the same in number while copying the grid on your canvas. You can increase the size of the image by increasing the size between the grid lines. And you can decrease it by decreasing the distance between each grid line. So here I'm keeping the size of my drawing exactly same as the size of the image. And for that I'm creating a similar grid on my paper, which means I'm keeping the distance between each grid line to be 1 centimeter. That is what I kept while creating the grid on the image. Now for instance, if I had to draw an image which was double the size of my original image, then I would double the size between each grid line. So here my size between each grid line would have been 2 centimeters. And if I wanted to reduce the size of the image, say for example I want to reduce it to the half of the original size, then I would reduce the distance between each grid line to half its original length. So here the distance would have been half a centimeter between each grid line. And that is why every artist loves this method so much, because it provides you the flexibility to increase or decrease the size of the original image. And here I'm just using the similar method of first drawing the dots and later on joining them to create the grid lines. I'm keeping these grid lines fairly dark over here because I need to demonstrate it to you guys and make it visible on camera. But in reality you need to keep these grid lines as light as possible so that it's easier to erase these grid lines later on. And now that our grid is all ready, let's start copying the image. For that, first identify from where do you need to start copying the image and mark that same square on your grid on the paper or on your canvas. For that, I'm counting the squares on the left and on the top of the square that I need to draw, and I'm identifying that same square by counting the squares on my paper. So I'm trying to copy this particular square, which on my paper is this one. And while copying the image, you don't need to look anywhere else, but just concentrate on the particular square that you are copying at that time. And see where the lines are starting from on the lines of that square and where are they ending. It's very easy to copy the lines in this way when the square is really small and each and everything in that square becomes comparatively big. So you can focus more, and because all of these squares are equal in size, your image at the end will be absolutely accurate and proportional. Once you select a square and start your drawing from that particular square, it becomes easier and easier as you move along and start drawing on its adjacent square. Just focus on one square at a time and concentrate on the lines and see from where are they starting and where are they ending. It's fairly easier to focus on one square at a time than on the entire image altogether. And these squares are what keeps you in check of the size and proportion and don't let you deviate from the actual size of the image. This technique is especially useful when you are creating a portrait and your proportions of the distance between eyes and nose needs to be absolutely accurate. Otherwise, the portrait won't look like the person you're drawing. And that's why a lot of portrait artists use this method to create their basic sketch. Please let me know in the comments down below if you want me to show you how to create a portrait using a grid method. Grid method is only used to capture the image in its accurate proportions on the canvas. It's mostly used to only create the basic sketch of the image, and then you can erase all the grid lines and start shading inside the image. And that's why it's important to keep the grid lines as light as possible. And the best part about grid method is that your image doesn't have to be straight. Say for example, here I'm keeping my rose horizontal and I'm not drawing it straight just like the image, because I'm concentrating on the individual squares and not on the entire image altogether. Thus, it becomes very easy to draw your image in whichever direction you like. And here's our image all done. Thanks to the grid method, it has been copied with the utmost accuracy in size and proportions on our paper. Look at the side-by-side comparison. The images look almost same without the shading. And now let's just use an eraser to erase all the grid lines outside the image. And for inside the image, I typically use a pointed eraser like a Tombow Mono Zero eraser, but you can also use your normal eraser by cutting it and making it pointy, or you can use a putty eraser as well. So that was it for today guys. I hope you guys liked and enjoyed this quick demonstration and tutorial on the grid method. I'll keep posting more such videos on Learn to Sketch that will help you improve your sketching and make you a better sketching artist. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it and share it with your friends. Please comment down below and let me know what would you like to learn in the next video. Let me know what did you think of these two methods of copying your image and which one would you prefer? Which one do you like the most? And most importantly, please subscribe to this channel and press the bell notification icon so that you may get notified about more such future videos. I upload videos every week and they're free. And as I always say, we are gonna make this world beautiful one thing at a time. Thank you so very much for watching guys. I'll see you later. Bye.